For almost 50 years, you were told to be afraid of something that came out of a hen. A simple food your ancestors had eaten for as long as humans and birds had lived side by side. A food so basic, so complete, that it contains everything needed to build an entire living creature from scratch. The egg. And yet for half a century, doctors warned you away from it. Health campaigns treated it as a quiet danger sitting in your refrigerator. An entire generation grew up genuinely believing that this small, perfect package of nutrition was slowly clogging their arteries with every bite. They were wrong. Not slightly wrong, spectacularly, officially, historically wrong. And the story of how it happened is one of the strangest cases of mistaken identity in the history of food. So how does a food that fed humanity for thousands of years end up branded as a threat? To understand it, you have to go back to the middle of the 20th century, to the birth of an idea that would reshape how the entire world ate. In the years after the Second World War, heart disease was rising sharply in the West, and nobody fully understood why. Scientists raced to find a cause, and one researcher in particular, an American scientist named Ancel Keys, became the most powerful voice in the room. Keys championed an idea that came to be known as the diet-heart hypothesis. The theory was elegant and easy to understand. Fat in your diet, and cholesterol in particular, raised the cholesterol in your blood. Cholesterol in your blood clogged your arteries. Clogged arteries caused heart attacks. Therefore, the logic concluded, you must fear the foods that contained cholesterol, and few foods contain more cholesterol than the egg yolk. The chain of reasoning seemed almost impossible to argue with. It was simple. It was intuitive. You eat cholesterol, you get cholesterol in your blood, you die. And so the egg, through no fault of its own, was convicted by association. By 1968, the American Heart Association was recommending that people eat no more than 3 eggs in an entire week. Public health messaging hardened around it. Egg consumption fell. People began ordering egg white omelets, carefully throwing away the yolk, the single most nutritious part, in the sincere belief they were protecting their hearts. But there was a problem buried inside that simple logic. A problem that took decades to fully surface. The human body is far more intelligent than the theory gave it credit for. Here is what the fear got wrong. Your body does not passively absorb cholesterol from food and dump it straight into your bloodstream. Cholesterol is not some foreign poison. It is a substance so essential to life that your body refuses to leave its supply up to chance. Cholesterol builds the membrane of every cell you own. It is the raw material for your hormones, for vitamin D, for the bile that digests your food. It is so important that your liver manufactures it constantly, producing the large majority of the cholesterol in your body all on its own. And this is the part that breaks the old theory. Your liver watches how much cholesterol you eat. When you consume more cholesterol from food, your liver generally responds by making less of its own. When you eat less, it makes more. It is a thermostat, constantly adjusting to keep your levels in balance. For most people, the cholesterol you eat at breakfast has only a modest effect on the cholesterol in your blood, because your own body quietly compensates. The simple equation, eat cholesterol and your blood cholesterol soars, was never how human biology actually worked. So if the science was shifting, when did the official story finally change? The answer is more recent than most people realize. In 2015, the expert committee behind the Dietary Guidelines for Americans, the document that shapes nutrition advice for an entire nation, did something remarkable. They dropped the long-standing recommendation to limit dietary cholesterol. After decades of warning people to restrict it, they concluded in plain language that cholesterol was no longer considered a nutrient of concern for overconsumption. The specific limit that had haunted the egg for nearly half a century was simply removed. The accused was, in effect, quietly released. Think about what that means. For a generation, people had thrown away yolks, skipped breakfast eggs, and felt a flicker of guilt at the sight of them, all based on a guideline that the experts themselves eventually walked back. But here is where an honest storyteller has to slow down, because this is not a tale of perfect certainty, and pretending otherwise would just repeat the original mistake in reverse. The science of diet and heart disease is genuinely complicated. Some people, often called hyper-responders, do see their blood cholesterol rise more than others when they eat cholesterol-rich foods. A handful of studies have still found associations between very high egg intake and heart risk, and researchers continue to debate the finer details to this day. The truth is not that eggs are a magic health food with no questions remaining. The truth is subtler and more important. The blanket fear, the idea that this ancient, nutrient-dense food was broadly dangerous for nearly everyone, was never actually justified by the evidence. A whole food was convicted by a theory that turned out to be far too simple for the body it was trying to describe. And while the egg sat wrongly accused, look at what people were actually losing. Because the egg is not just harmless, it is one of the most complete foods in nature, which makes sense when you remember what it is. An egg contains everything required to grow a bird from a single cell. High-quality protein with every essential amino acid your body needs. Choline, a nutrient critical for your brain and nervous system that most people do not get enough of, concentrated heavily in the very yolk people were taught to discard. Vitamins A, D, E, and B12, minerals, healthy fats, all of it wrapped in a shell, requiring no label, no processing, no factory. The egg is, in a sense, the original whole food, and your ancestors understood its value instinctively, long before anyone could name a single vitamin. This is the quiet lesson hiding inside the whole strange saga. For 50 years, people were steered away from a simple, ancient, nourishing food, and toward the processed, packaged, heavily marketed products that filled the shelves in its place. The egg was treated as the suspect, while genuinely engineered foods, the ones assembled from refined flour, industrial oils, and sugar, escaped the same scrutiny entirely. We feared the wrong thing. We almost always do. So the next time you crack an egg into a pan, understand what you are actually holding. Not a danger, not a guilty pleasure. One of the most ancient and complete foods our species has ever eaten, wrongly accused for half a century, and quietly cleared by the very authorities that once condemned it. If you want to get back to eating the way your ancestors actually did, built around real, whole, unprocessed foods like the egg, rather than the factory products that replace them, that is exactly what the Ancestral Kitchen Bible was made for. It is filled with over 100 clean, whole, historical recipes designed to nourish your body the way nature intended, free of the processed ingredients that quietly took the place of real food. You can claim your copy through the link in the description right now. And if you use the code 2026 at checkout, you will receive an exclusive 50% discount. Because for almost 50 years, you were told to fear something that came out of a hen, while the truly engineered foods sat quietly beside it, unquestioned. The egg was never the threat. And the moment you understand how easily an entire world can convict the wrong food, you start to look at everything else on your plate with very different eyes.